This lecture we will talk about focus, zoom, and iris. Firstly, what's mean by focus? The focus control is the ring furthest from the camera body on the front of the lens. Distance setting are marked in meters and in feet, while a non-zoom lens is focused simply by turning the ring until the image is sharp. The zoom lens must be zoomed in to the smallest angle of view and the largest image size to adjust focus. Also, the lens should then be zoomed out to the widest angle of view and the smallest image size to make sure the image stays in focus through the entire zoom ring. And if the image stays sharp, the lens will remain focused at any focal length as long as the distance from the subject doesn't change. Secondly, what's meant by zoom? The zoom is the function which moves your point of view closer to or further away from the subject. And the center ring on most lenses is the zoom control. What's meant by manual zoom control? The manual zoom control on camera is a small rod extending from the zoom ring to zoom in or out and turn the zoom rod clockwise or counterclockwise. It takes some skill and practice to accomplish smooth zoom with the manual control. While zoom servo is nothing more than a small motor controlled by a lever. The distance the lever is depressed determines the speed of the zoom, typically from 2.5. Third, we will talk about aperture or iris. The main components in a camera that control needed quantity of light are iris and the shutter. Aperture, it is the ring closest to the camera body which controls the amount of light passing through the lens to the light sensitive surface of the backup tube or chip. It is called the iris or aperture or f-stop control, and it is marked off in F numbers. Iris is a kind of orifice that opens and closes to let more or less light pass through the lens. Aperture are exposed as F numbers. Each lens will have a certain ring of standard sizes. The lowest f-stop lets in the most light and the highest f-stop lets in the least. For example, in indoors, it is often necessary to add light to get a good picture, while outdoors, on bright sunny days, it may be necessary to reduce the light reaching the backup tube even more than the lens will allow. The smallest number, f1.4, is the largest opening, allowing the most light, while the largest number, f60, is the smallest opening, allowing the least amount of the light. And now we will talk about auto iris. The goal of manual or automatic iris is to set the light in the image correctly. So, how can you tell the image at the moment is overexposed? The auto iris adjustment hasn't provided the best image exposure, and in a scene that contains a lot of area, brighter or darkness than the main subject matter. Then we will talk about shutter speed. A shutter is a device, door or gate that allow light to pass for a determined period of time. It controls the duration that light is entering the camera and exposing the sensor. The length of time that the shutter is open is known as shutter speed. The shutter, like the iris, but controls the exposure time of light that reaches the CCD or the film. Shutter speed is measured in seconds. For example, increasing the shutter speed allows less light to reach the CCD, while slower shutter speed is a longer time passes from the moment the shutter opens till the moment it closes. More time is available for movement in the subject to be recorded by the camera. It blurs the action because people have more time to walk through the scene. And speeding up or slowing down a camera shutter speed can be a way of controlling exposure. If the iris is closed without changing the shutter speed, it is evident that less light will actually reach the light-sensitive material, CCD, therefore producing an underexposed image. And conversely, the image will be overexposure if we aren't changing the shutter speed in case of opening iris.